In a quiet little village deep beneath the earth, there lived a frog named Fred. All his life, Fred had known only the walls of an old well. Every day he looked up and saw a small circle of sky, believing it to be the whole world. His days were always the same: the gentle drip of water, the faint shimmer of sunlight from above, and the comforting stillness of his tiny kingdom. In that well, Fred was a king. He took pride in knowing every pebble and ripple, convinced he had everything he needed. But sometimes, safety blinds us. Familiarity lulls us into believing that what we know is enough, that our little world is complete. And perhaps, like Fred, we too live in our own wells, content with small comforts, unaware of the vast sky waiting beyond. One warm afternoon, Fred heard a voice echoing down from above. "Hey there, what are you doing in that hole?" Looking up, he saw a turtle peering over the edge with kind, curious eyes. "I'm Tom," said the turtle. "I've traveled far, across rivers, through forests, even to the ocean." Fred puffed out his chest proudly. "This is my world. I have water, stones, and a piece of sky. What more could anyone need?" Tom smiled gently. "You're lucky, my friend," he said. "But have you ever seen the ocean?" Fred frowned. "The ocean? What's that?" Tom looked into the distance. "It's a place wider than your imagination, deeper than your dreams." Fred fell silent. For the first time, he looked up at his familiar circle of sky and felt it shrink. A quiet thought stirred within him. Could there really be more? In that single moment of doubt, a seed of awakening was planted, and his journey beyond the well had quietly begun. That night, Fred could not close his eyes. The stillness of the well felt heavier than ever. He sat beneath the faint shimmer of moonlight, replaying Tom's words over and over. A world bigger than anything you can imagine. Bigger than this. Bigger than the circle of sky he had worshipped all his life. The thought unsettled him. For the first time, his peaceful little well no longer felt comforting. It felt small. It felt like a trap. He looked around, noticing the walls that had once seemed friendly now closing in on him like a cage. What if he had been wrong all along? What if the safety he was so proud of had only kept him from truly living? The idea frightened him, yet it also stirred something new, curiosity, perhaps even longing. But every time he imagined climbing out, another voice whispered in the dark, "You'll fail, you'll fall, you're not meant for more." And so Fred sat in silence, caught between fear and the faint glow of possibility. When dawn arrived, the first light touched the surface of the water like a sign. Fred took a deep breath. His heart raced. The walls of the well seemed taller than ever, rough and unwelcoming. But he knew he couldn't stay any longer. With trembling legs, he placed his front foot on the wall and began to climb. Step by step, breath by breath, higher and higher. Every inch upward was a struggle, against gravity, against exhaustion, against the voice that hissed, "Go back, you don't belong out there." But he kept going. His body ached, his heart pounded, and fear clawed at his chest. Yet he climbed. Because courage, real courage, is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward despite it. And in that fragile moment, Fred took his first true step toward freedom. When Fred finally reached the top of the well, he paused, his tiny body trembling from exhaustion. The morning sun poured over him, warm and blinding, more radiant than anything he had ever known. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. The world before him unfolded in ways his mind could hardly grasp. Rivers glistened like ribbons of light, trees stretched endlessly toward the heavens, and mountains rose in majestic silence, their peaks crowned with clouds. Birds soared freely across the open sky, their songs echoing like music from another realm. The air itself was alive, fresh, wild, and full of promise. Fred's heart pounded as he whispered to himself, "So this is life beyond the well." He took his first step onto the soft earth, feeling it pulse with energy beneath his feet. Every movement was a discovery. The texture of grass, the rhythm of the wind, the shimmer of sunlight dancing on water. Colors burst around him with a brilliance he had never imagined. Emerald leaves, golden light, sapphire skies. He saw creatures he didn't know existed. Butterflies drifting like living jewels, dragonflies gliding across ponds, and other frogs leaping freely in wide open fields. Each sight filled him with awe, but also with humility. For the first time, Fred understood how small his world had been, not because of the well's stone walls, but because of the limits within his own mind. The walls had never truly trapped him. It was his belief in them that did. And as he gazed across the endless horizon, a quiet realization took root in his heart. Freedom was never about escaping the world around him. It was about expanding the world within. Days passed, and Fred's heart grew lighter with every sunrise. The vastness of the world no longer frightened him. It inspired him. Yet one morning, as he sat by a quiet stream, watching his reflection ripple in the water, he thought of the well he had left behind. The old stones, the circle of light, the frogs who still lived below, content, unaware, just as he once was. A soft ache filled his chest, not of regret, but of understanding. He knew he had to return, not to sin but to share what he had seen. When Fred finally reached the well, he peered down into the familiar darkness. The air was still, cool and faintly echoing with the croaks of his old companions. "My friends," he called, his voice bright with excitement. "You won't believe what I've seen. There's a world beyond these walls, rivers that shine, mountains that touch the clouds, skies that stretch forever. You have to see it for yourselves." For a moment there was silence. Then laughter rose from below, not cruel, just dismissive. "Nonsense," one frog said. "There's nothing out there but danger." Another added, "Why would anyone leave? We have all we need right here." Fred smiled softly, gazing at the little circle of light that had once been his whole world. He didn't argue. He simply said, "One day you'll hear the wind call your name, and when you do, don't ignore it." From that day forward, Fred never returned to live in the well. He wandered freely, from forests to streams to wide golden meadows, not as the ruler of a small kingdom, but as a humble seeker of truth. Wherever he went, he shared his story with those who would listen. Creatures big and small, each trapped in their own kind of well, and his message was always the same: don't let the size of your world be measured by your fear. The sky is bigger than you think, and so are you. The world grew quiet again. The wind softened, the rivers slowed, and Fred found himself resting beneath the glow of a golden sunset. For the first time, he wasn't seeking new lands or chasing new horizons. He was simply being, and in that stillness, he understood. Every journey begins not with the feet, but with the mind. He looked back on his life, the well that once defined him, the fear that once held him, and the moment he chose to climb. He realized that the walls of the well were never the enemy. They were the mirror reflecting his own limits, the boundaries he had built from comfort and fear. Freedom, he now knew, wasn't just about escaping the place you're in. It was about transforming the way you see. Maybe you are Fred. Maybe I am too. We all have our own wells, our routines, our comfort zones, the beliefs that feel safe but quietly keep us small. We stay inside them because they make us feel secure, even when our hearts long for something greater. But beyond those walls lies the life we've been dreaming of, full of color, growth, and possibility. And it all begins with one simple, terrifying, beautiful choice: the courage to climb. So let me ask you this: what's your well? What are the walls you've mistaken for safety, the limits you've accepted as truth? And when the voice of courage calls, soft, uncertain, but persistent, will you listen? Because somewhere beyond the edges of what you know, there's a wider sky waiting. And it's calling your name. #Zen story, #motivation, #self-growth, #mindfulness, #comfort zone, inspiration, the frog at the well, personal growth, #life lessons, awakening, courage, #mindset shift, hashtag storytelling, hashtag Zen philosophy.